here. Alright, we got 4 people. Let me know who you are, where you're at, where you're watching from, what time it is. We're going to get rolling here in just a few. Like I said, this live stream is going to be a bit different. We have weather catching the end of Hurricane Debbie here in Halifax. Right on the East Coast. It's been kind of funny because ever since I got here, I haven't seen much rain, and the one day I want to go live, the rain hits like never before. So it's the type of luck I'm used to, but I'm working around it. I push through. I got something planned for today, so it won't be like this all the time, but I think this is going to be something cool. I got some things to talk about that should be interesting. Send your comments, ask some questions. I have my moderator behind me, so she'll read out all the questions, and I'll answer them as they come up. So don't be afraid to ask anything. It can be anything about myself, about the weather, about my job in the military, about knife throwing, about anything. It's pretty open, so we'll just kind of go with this and have some fun. So like I said, grab your favorite drink, sit back, relax. We're going to get into this. So we got 3 people in here right now. Alright, so I should get going here in a second. I was hoping, the 4th person's not even staying on, but that's okay. I sent a couple messages out to the Team Nobody. So that's one of the big reasons why I'm starting to do live streams. I'm recently sponsored by Nobody's Knife Works, and he has been kind enough to offer some of his credit to his store. It's generous of him to do that. So when my live streams get a little bit more normalized, I'm going to be doing some giveaways. So the winner will get $100 towards Nobody Knife Works, and we'll do a little game. And whoever the winner is, all I ask is you put your screen caption your name, proving it's you, and you can send me an email, and then I'll direct you to Nobody's Knife Works, and you'll be discounted on what you want to get. So I'll throw my email in the description below, and you can email me questions, but that's where I'll ask for those giveaway winners to send a message to in that email. And again, get a screen caption of your name to prove it's you to me, so I know it's you, and we'll get that money over to you so you can get some cool things. You can check out his shop at Etsy. It's his main page right now. He has a Facebook page if you look up Nobody's Knife Works there. And you can go through and see he has a lot of cool designs, a lot of new designs. Knives have not been around. They're not something new. They've been around for a while. But he's still able to come out with some new designs, which is pretty good. And check those out. He has some common designs too, where he's offering them at a lower price, which is good quality. It's not lacking anything for the price you're getting it for. So that's a good bonus when you're getting into knife throwing. You want to get a good set of knives. So with that said, that's my sponsorship. That's my t-shirt. That's what I'm rolling in my Target now. And I am the coolest weatherman. How I got that name, I've been in the military for almost 20 years now, and I've been a weatherman, a meteorologist, for I'd say about 15 years out of that 20 years. And I did a deployment, an operation, and during that operation, a news reporter did a little piece on me, and he titled it as the coolest weatherman on the planet. So if you Google the coolest weatherman on the planet, I've been #1 now for over 10 years. So I used the coolest weatherman as a name in my knife throwing, my YouTube channel, and it kind of just stuck with me. So that's kind of where my name came from. That's part of my job, it's part of something I did in the military, and I hold that pretty close to me. I like it. It's pretty cool for me. as a weatherman. There's many others, so we're all kind of doing our jobs, but once you get kind of recognized, it definitely feels good. It definitely feels good in the military because you're doing a lot of work, and it's not the same pay as a meteorologist in the civilian world. And you're doing a lot more harder work, sleeping out in the bush with artillery, the Army. I've been Air Force on air pads, on bases with planes coming in, helicopters. I'm now posted to a ship, so I'll be on board a ship, and I'll be forecasting weather for the ship when it's out to sea. Waves, sea surface temperatures, hurricanes. Definitely don't want any of that type of stuff when they're on ships. So the weather person is pretty important on ships. They're one of the only people that work with the captain on board. So it's pretty important. I'm excited for that new position. It's going to be interesting. It's new. I'm the highest ranking Army Met Tech in the Canadian Forces, but they posted me to a Navy position, which is kind of ironic, but here I am. And I'm navigating through this, getting through it. Family's very supportive, so that's a little bit about my job, a little bit about my nickname, where it came from. So knife throwing. Why did I get into knife throwing? How did that happen? I was actually into bushcraft. I like spending time out in the bush, using those old school type tools, starting fires with ferro rods, building outdoor hoochies, shelters, making traps, reading a map with a compass. And I always had a knife on me. I'm in Canada, so it wasn't easy for me to bring out a different type of weapon that I might have wanted. So I got into knives because I was, carving things out, hunting with it, and building shelters, doing my thing out in the bush. And I realized, with this knife, you can throw it. It kind of just came on me one day. I wanted to know how to throw a knife while I'm out there to give me a little bit more something to do around the fire. So I got searching and I got looking up. And before I even threw a knife, I probably watched every video on YouTube at the time. Very popular person, Adam Paladin, Chaladine. I started watching a lot of his videos. This is 5 years ago, more than 5 years ago. So it was not as popular as it is right now. It's definitely was at that time, but it's grown so much since. And so at the time, YouTubers weren't around, wasn't many. So I definitely started out watching a few selective people that were there. That was all there was. And I was self-taught beyond that. I visually saw what could be done, but I understood the mechanics to throwing. I've been in sports my whole life. So I've been throwing, since I was a little kid, throwing balls, baseballs, tennis balls, footballs. So I kind of just picked up a knife and started throwing. The first knife I ever threw was this, actually, because I was actually waiting for some orders. And I just could not wait, so I had to throw what I had. And I have a boot knife here, Smith & Wesson. From throwing it, it chipped off the tip. So that's very common when you're buying knives that are not meant for throwing. You're most likely going to break them. So I knew that right away, but I had to throw something. This wasn't too expensive. So I started throwing it military half spin. Wasn't a no-spin thrower, but at the beginning, I wasn't ready to go no-spin. I just wanted to throw knives. So I started throwing this knife. This was my first knife. Right on my YouTube channel, my first video is this knife being thrown bullseye. What's that, babe? Put it in the camera more. Let's see here. I'm working out the camera angles. It's a boot knife. So it goes in your boot. At least that's what it's for, but I mean, you can pretty much put that anywhere you want. And again, military half spin is because there's a blade. So it's called that because you don't want to hold the blade. So the blade's directed outwards. So you're going to hold your knife and be safe. Be able to throw it without cutting yourself. So that was like the first way I threw the knife. Can it be thrown no spin now? Yeah, I can pretty much throw anything no spin now. It can be rotational as well. But that was the first knife I started. People start off throwing butter knives, nails, anything with a pointy end. They can pretty much throw it. So if you're starting off into knife throwing, it doesn't have to be a knife. Remember that. You can just start off learning the mechanics to throwing. So that kind of will get into a little bit of the basics to knife throwing from my perspective. And I've already touched base a little bit on just throwing. I was into a lot of sports, so I already understood the basic mechanics to throwing a ball. This has probably been said numerous times before, but it's relevant. If you're into sports, I would tell you to throw naturally a ball and go from there. So, like here, you got a tennis ball, you got a baseball. If you understand sports, a tennis ball here, just throw it against the wall. Your aim's going to come from throwing. No matter what you're throwing, your aim's going to come from repetition. You're going to throw as many times as you can. If you're into it and you desire it, if you're having fun, you're going to do it more. So aim comes from doing it a lot. So if you started out throwing sports, throwing darts, throwing footballs, you're probably going to have some good aim starting off in knife throwing. So again, understanding the mechanics, the little nuances to throwing. When it comes to baseball, they have these threading, and the pitchers use it for, curve balls, for change-ups. They hold the ball a different way when they're throwing it. And that's kind of how it goes with throwing a knife. You're going to have to hold it differently for different distances. You're going to have to hold it differently for throwing half spin, rotational, full rotation, or no spin. So if you understand that, and it even goes into throwing a football. A lot of people like to throw with a bullet. So you can understand how to get a spiral by maybe throwing your pronator into it, flicking your fingers on the side of a ball and spinning it. There's a new thrower that recently came out, and he's showing how to throw a no-spin throw, and he's telling everybody to throw it with a spin. Without that spin, it's not going to travel in the air. It's going to wobble all over the place. So for me, when I got into knife throwing, I already threw a lot and understood. So I really focused in on just seeing if it could work. And it did. You can be self-taught. You can watch other people. You can get a teacher. But if you can throw a ball, you're most likely going to be able to train yourself, teach yourself. So, you can throw the knife. If it doesn't stick, like a ball doesn't have a pointy end, a knife does, and you want to get that pointy end in the target. So when you're throwing your knife, that pointy end doesn't go in the target, you're going to hit it, whether over-rotated or under-rotated. At the beginning, you might not be able to see what it is, over-rotated or under-rotated. So step forward if you miss. Take a step back if you miss. Adjust the knife above your hand, in your hand, on your thumb. Hold the grip differently. Hold it like you would a baseball or a football when you're trying to learn how to throw that. So it just works. You just have to adjust how you're throwing a knife like you would throw different balls. And that's kind of how I started out. Now I really got the hype of no spin. It was something new. And in all my training, I really try to stay focused. I don't want to get too distracted, and I lose out on my skill level that I could be progressing in. So I really want I already have a mindset in most of the training I do, no matter if it's arm wrestling, weightlifting, in the military, martial arts. I want to stay focused on one thing and master it as slow as I possibly can and be very patient. So I got into throwing knives, and I said, I'm going to throw no spin, and I'm not going to get distracted. I'm not going to change it up and throw rotational the next day or the next week or the next month. I stay focused on throwing no spin. So at the beginning, I made my choice. I did get a lot of influence from Adam Cheladine, and I wanted to throw no spin. I saw the benefits to it. Papa Audi, he's on here, test, what's going on? That's my sponsor. He's showing his support. Thanks for coming out, buddy. and I appreciate it. So right now we're just talking about how I understand the basics of knife throwing and how I started in knife throwing. And I'm talking about right now how I started no spin. I wanted to stay no spin, and I didn't really want to get distracted. It is part of the person I am, my character. I like to be good. I like to be the best I can be, and I really am hard on myself. So I try to progress in a way that I can be proud of, that I can be happy with. So with no spin, I had a plan. You know, I took a lot of the pointers from people out there that have been throwing for a while, and a lot of their pointers are stay patient, don't rush your distances, you know, work with those basics and stick to those basics. And I already understood that type of teaching points because of martial arts. You don't move up in your belt levels, you don't move up in degrees until you've mastered the basics. And even when you master the basics, you're only going to another level. You're not going to go to the top yet. So I understood to take it slow and get those basics. So I started throwing at 3 meters, and I stuck to that for a while. I was lucky enough to have a range indoors and outdoors, so I could get my training in a lot more. And that helped a lot too. The more hours you can get in, the better. But good hours. You don't want to train sloppy. You don't want to train with bad habits that can develop. So you want to really, you know, educate yourself and set out some plans that will reach goals that you have for yourself. So that's how I got started. And if you look at my channel, you'll notice I just threw basic throwing. And it was no spin, but I love power. I wanted it to be something lethal. I was in the bush, and it all started from bushcraft. So I was understanding how to defend myself against certain animals out there, whether they had rabies or just something to defend myself with when I'm out there alone. And so I really wanted to throw power, with a lot of power. And when it came to any type of sports I was in, the more power I could throw a football, the more power I could throw with a baseball, I was more accurate. If I threw lobs or lighter, I wasn't as accurate. So I just channeled that into this knife throwing, and it helped. The best way to know something is to experience it yourself. So if you want to try something to learn, that is the best advice I can almost give you. You can ask questions, you can take advice, and you can maybe avoid something, or you can take that advice and try it yourself just to make sure that it is right. Because everyone is slightly different. Everyone has different backgrounds, and the way they grow up, all those skills they've developed will play into effect to knife throwing, or whatever it is, sport you're in. So, yeah, so I wanted to stay focused on no spin, and everything that I did in the past really helped me. And I was self-taught, but I was patient, and I was also using a lot of visuals from other people. I quickly got into trick shots. Now, with trick shots, you can't really call it trick shots because, at least for me, it helped me develop my skills. So as much as people would call it a trick shot, it was helping me hit moving targets. It was helping me learn. Every time I would miss, I was still throwing naturally, the way I was training without a trick shot. So every time you're trying to chase a moving object, whether it's a can or ring, that is still training. So it just, for me, made it funner. It made it more enjoyable to chase after something because I was determined to do it, and I wouldn't quit until I did it. So that gave me a lot more hours. I was down throwing for a while in my basement, outside, and maybe this will help. I had my mic down below, so maybe I can just attach this in here, and my mic will be a little bit better. Let me know if that helps. There we go. I thought it was picking it up already. I didn't want to be too loud, but there we go. If that works, great. Let me know if it doesn't. I'll make an adjustment. But yeah, so throwing was I've always done it,
and knife throwing was just something extra that I wanted to do out in the bush to keep myself safe. It grew up, it blew up as I was just talking about trick shots. Kind of got off track there, but as I was talking about trick shots, that made knife throwing for me so much more enjoyable. I can, if it's in your blood, you enjoy something, you're going to do it. And what most people might be viewing it as boring, you're enjoying it. So throwing a knife and picking it out of the target and throwing it and just going back and forth, that could be very therapeutic. That could be very fun, kills a lot of time. We just got through that pandemic, and that, hopefully YouTube doesn't cut me off for that, but that time we had when we were all bunkered in, this knife throwing really helped, all that extra time I had. And getting into all this different stuff was a lot more fun, like the trick shots. And because I was dedicated no spin, I threw all my tricks with no spin. I wasn't switching it up. If I had to change my throw to do a trick, that wasn't even in my mind. I was going to throw the same way for all my tricks because I was always looking to improve, get better. There were slight adjustments as I threw, but I stuck to the similar grips and the similar body mechanics. It really stayed the same for a while. And when I got really good and I made little tweaks to my throwing, I didn't lose a lot of my skill. I didn't lose much at all because I mastered those basics at the beginning. I really put the time in. I got it. Some people can learn quicker than others, but for the most part, especially knife throwing, you're going to have to put a lot of time in to get really good. And no matter how good you get, don't have unrealistic expectations like you're never going to drop a knife. You're always going to drop a knife. But your consistency, when you drop one knife out of 10, then you're dropping one knife out of 20, one knife out of 50, one or two knives out of 100. You can kind of gauge how you're progressing based on your consistency, but never expect yourself to pick up a knife and not miss. Your trick shots are never going to be right on the first throw. You can have those days, you kind of get it on the first throw. Your skill level's there, but it's not going to happen every time. So don't have any unrealistic expectations at the beginning. You're not going to be able to throw with extreme power. Have a flight path that is super straight. At the beginning, just get your sticks and have very simple but basic goals that is going to project you into the next goals you set. I can't stress it enough how patient you have to be when you really want to be good at something. It takes time. You can skip a few steps and you might get lucky because your skill level is higher than others, but you're never gonna lose if you take your time. You're really not. So just keep that in mind. That's how I started out. Again, I'm just kind of explaining how I started knife throwing. If I'm missing anything, there's going to be some other videos that I'll mention some of the things that I used at the beginning. One of the things is picking out a knife that you feel comfortable with. So there's a lot more knife companies out there that are offering knives, which makes it a lot better. At the beginning for me, I was picking up knives all over the place. A lot of people were mentioning this and that, and I really wanted to get the right knife because I understood too, you can pick up bad habits if you're training with a certain knife. And one of the examples is the Gil Hibbins here. This is a smaller knife, stainless steel. That's okay, hold on. Before I get into this, I'll answer that question. So that stuffed animal up there, you have a keen eye. So the stuffed animal is actually the first stuffed animal I ever had as a kid. I didn't keep much from my childhood, but that. In fact, most of my stuff has been thrown out by my parents. all my trophies, all my toys, but I kept that. His name's Ralph, and I can't believe I'm actually talking about him, but thank you, Papa Adi, for bringing that up. Yeah, his name's Ralph, and he's been with me for 30 plus years. It's something I'm probably just going to pass on to my kids if I can let him go. But he got me through some tough times in the beginning of my life. So he's kind of like my guardian angel above me right now. He comforts me when I look at him. Thank you for that. Now let's get back into knife throwing. So I started off taking some advice from Adam Cheladine, and I grabbed this knife, thinking it was also mentioned by a lot of other popular knife throwers out there. Brandon Danger Dillon. This is a popular knife, and for no spin, military half spin, you can even throw anything rotationally, really. Any no spin knife, you can throw it rotationally. It's just designed for no spin. Most rotational knives aren't designed for no spin. This has a live edge, so it's a little difficult to play around with rotational or half spin. But this was a knife that I'm using as an example that I got at the beginning that I did not train with. I got it, and as soon as I started to throw it, it was just it's a short knife, 7 to 8 inches long. It's light, and it was going to develop bad habits. I had to throw no spin a specific way to be able to stick that knife. And I was going to develop bad habits. So I quickly started looking at other knives, and I started picking up Beaucrees by John Bailey. They were a little longer, and they helped a little bit more, but they were also too light for me. So I didn't want to keep training with those. I was seeking out knives under my budget that I could find, and I did a lot of watching. You can just type the knife you're looking for on YouTube and see other people using it, and really study it before you make mistakes and waste money. So I really did the studying, and before I made any other mistakes, I'm like, okay, you know what? Adam Cheladine's a 5-time world champion, and he's telling us the best training knife is the Vengeance. And the Vengeance Slim is a little cheaper brand, and I went with it. I'm like, okay, I'm going in. I'm going to get that knife. And when I got that knife, that's this one here. It's not really a knife. And it's mentioned before, this is like a steak. It's not looking like a knife. But this helped me train at the beginning. This was what I threw for thousands of hours. And I didn't go to other knives. I stuck with this knife, and I really developed a lot of my skill with this knife. Now you can get other knives. There's other knives out there that are very similar to that where you're not going to pick up bad habits with. But for no spin, I got to say this arrow type of shape, that Vengeance style, is very common. The pros that have been there before me, the OGs, they recommend that type of style. That's going to help you out. Because of the way it's designed, it doesn't have a heavy front. You're really forced to work on your push with your index finger. You're really forced to work on, because this back end really wants to go forward. So you're going to have to cancel that rotation out with your index finger. So this is really going to help you understand the feel of how to cancel out the knife's rotation so you can accomplish the no spin throw. That's what this does. That type of shape, heavy to very, very light. So once I've learned with that knife, when I started picking up other knives, I was able to throw it. It was just a little less of my index. So that really helped me kind of get that muscle to, if there's not much muscle in here, but enough to brain. You want that connection with your brain, and you really want to be able to feel it because it's so slight of a change when you're going to different knives. If you throw the same way with this knife, with a different knife, you know it's going to be different. You're going to throw the same way, you're going to miss using that other knife. There's slight changes that you have to make when you're throwing for no spin. Any style of throwing, you're going to have to make adjustments when you switch your knives. So if you're throwing live, let's say I'll be doing this and I'll switch to a knife, I might miss right away. And then I'll be able to get it and stick to it because I have to make that small adjustment and I have to feel it out. But when it comes to knives that I've trained with for, like this one, thousands of hours, this knife, the Vengeance Slim, most likely when I pick this up and throw it, I'm going to stick it right away. Just because my muscle to brain is connected with this. I've used this so much. The more you throw with one knife, the better you're going to be. That's why it's very important when you're getting knives for your everyday carry, your EDC, that you throw that knife a lot, so that if you are ever like put into a scenario where you have to use it, whether to defend yourself like I thought when I was bushcrafting, then you're going to be able to do something and not have to miss, because you're not going to get another chance. You don't have time to make those adjustments, collect your knife and throw it again. You want to be confident, so that means a lot of time is going to go into throwing that knife you choose that you want to carry with you. So that comes up with my next knife. As I was a bushcrafter, you know, I really wanted to throw a knife. I understood I had to grab these other knives to learn, but I wanted in the end goal to be able to throw any knife, and a real knife. So one of my favorite companies is Tops in America, USA, and this was my first EDC. It's the Steel Eagle 105, and it's a knife, right? And I studied all their knives, and this one was the one I came up with because it had more of a flat handle. So for my style of no spin throwing, it wasn't rounded or, you know, too thick. I was still able to give it my pinch grip. I started off with a pinch grip like that, and eventually I've moved my fingers up. Just gives me more power, more control. But this way of throwing, I think it's like the Skank way of throwing. I started trying that, and I quickly needed to say, no, I want to throw it with more power. Some styles of throws will limit you in your power. So I wanted the most power I could get, and the body mechanics that I was natural with was throwing like a baseball thrower, like a pitcher. So I stuck to it, and I just refined it a little bit with my hand and my body mechanics to just be able to throw the knife as hard as I could throw a ball. So I threw this, and I threw this a lot. You can tell by the tip of my knife, all the coating, all the traction coating is off. The patina is gone. I threw this so much, and I was confident, and I carried this around with me quite a bit. So I knew if I had to pull this knife out, I was able to throw with it if I needed to. I can throw this knife long distance. It was the perfect length, perfect weight, and I was able to do all my bushcraft tools with. You know, it has the saw back, sharp blade, very comfortable in the hand to do some detailed work when I was out there. Good little choke here for pushing and getting some deep work into wood. But anyways, this was also throwable. And I was like, I'm adding one more thing to a knife. I want to be able to use this for building, but at the same time, I want to use this to be able to defend myself. Yeah, that's the knife that pretty much is an all-in-one. It's an all-in-one type of knife that I wanted. And this led into other knives that I got, but this was generally my favorite knife to throw, and I can still throw this like a bullet. So that was one of my main goals. And one of the main things that I found interesting in knife throwing was when you stab a knife, the penetration is less than throwing a knife. No matter how hard you think you can stab a knife, when you throw the knife, you'll get more penetration. So on average, I'll get about an inch when I stab the knife, as hard as I can. When I throw the knife, I can get up to 2 inches. I was sticking this into targets all the way up into like a couple of these sawbacks. Like I was maybe the third one, fourth one back. So the penetration you're going to get with a knife is a lot harder when you throw it than when you stab it. There's probably a lot of other science involved, like when you're stabbing it, the vibration is being absorbed through your hand, as when you're throwing it, it's kind of there's no limit. Nothing's restricting the knife from penetrating as far as the force that you applied to it. So that was very interesting too. And then before the animal got towards me, I was able to keep it away and penetrate it if I had to harder than a stab could. So that was my first line of defense. And as it's said many times before, don't throw your last knife away. I would never recommend that. But quickly when I got into knife throwing, I had a lot of knives. So I always carried a lot of knives with me. Always had a backup. But that's one of the main things at the beginning. I wanted to throw any style knife, and I wanted to do it no spin. Very instinctive. It's a very, might be a little difficult to learn that, but stay patient and you'll get there. And make the adjustments to the EDC that you want to carry accordingly. So if you have a certain knife you're really good with, I would customize your EDC to work to be very close to that. And you're gonna definitely be able to throw that EDC. It's nothing like spending a couple $100 on an EDC that you really like, but you can't throw it. And then you get another EDC and you can throw that one much better, and you're like, well, I'm not going to carry that other one around with me anymore. You can save a lot of the bank by that as well, by just taking your time, throwing. Don't rush anything. Don't be like, okay, I'm ready to throw a knife. I want to get this knife anyways. Feel it out for a while. The more time you put in a day, then maybe you don't have to go months. But if you're throwing once a week, twice a week, you might want to take a couple months of doing that, maybe even a year, before you start thinking you can throw any knife. It takes a lot of practice to be able to just grab any knife and throw it. I can grab any knife now and throw it, no matter the size, the weight. I'm pretty good at throwing no spin. It might just take a little adjustment, as I already mentioned, like any knife will. But for those knives that I've practiced the most with, I'm able to throw those knives still to this day right off the bat. So that's kind of the intro of where I started, with what type of knives you can get, the importance to picking out a good knife that you're going to not pick up any bad habits with, and stay patient and continue throwing that knife. I'm a visual learner, so the more you can look up other throwers and study their body mechanics, watch the same video over and over. For part of the video, one time you're watching the video, you're staring at their hand. The next time you watch the video, you're staring at their feet. The next time at the video, you're watching the release and you're focusing on that release and you're slowing it down, and study it. I was obsessed over this. So I was getting into the details, and I was studying people and how they threw very closely. Again, I brought in some skills before. So a lot of those things you got to watch for in the hand. It's really going to look very similar everyone's throw, but at that last moment, you might have to self-teach yourself how to feel that knife release out of your hand. You're not going to be able to pick it up as much. Someone can show you a grip, but when they release, we're talking about little fractions of a second that matter so much when you're throwing no spin. And to get that power in from different distances, the body mechanics will look very similar, but look at throws. Look at throwers. See that they might get a little bit lower to get that distance and that power in. They might get a little bit more of a step forward. When you're closer to the target, you don't have to follow through as much. You don't have to follow through at all. But when you start stepping back, the follow through is so important. Just watch a baseball thrower and how much follow through they have. Meters, they're stepping forward. And they're cocking back with their waist, with their legs, with their arms, shoulder, their whole body's cocking back to generate so much power from going from one side to the release side. So study all that, and no matter how much I can explain it or someone else can explain it, the best way you're going to learn is by doing it. Have a starting point. Understand, okay, this is how this person's achieving it. Watch another person, this is how they're achieving it, and then make a hybrid of what's going to help you throw. Because everyone is slightly different on how comfortable they feel. I would always tell somebody to start off throwing a ball and start throwing a knife the same way. However you throw that ball, you want to be natural. with throwing the knife. You don't want to have to start off by throwing sideways when you've thrown a ball your whole life overhand. Start overhand, master that. Then you're going to realize the sidearm is not much of adjustment. So when you start to throw sidearm, underhand, behind the back, under the leg, all these fun things you see, you're going to be able to do that a lot better if you stay patient and start where you naturally are doing the best. And then make your fine tweaks from there. Don't start off with power, start off with sticking. Make sure you get that stick. You want that knife straight in. You don't want it curved down or curved up. If you're getting a lot of sticks that are over-rotated, you don't want to move back. You know, you want a bunch in a row that are straight in. And if anything, a little under-rotated so that when you move back, that under-rotation is going to go in. So, again, stay patient, find a hybrid of what works for you, and without trying it, you're not going to know. So don't go one route because you like this thrower so much and you want to throw like that thrower. You might learn a different way, but you'll be able to throw just like that person. That power, that speed, that accuracy, the flight path, zooming into that target like a bullet. You just might be able to do it a different way. Oh yeah, those iron tears. So I had the first iron tear. Thank you for that comment there, Matt. Those iron tears are very common design, but nobody made it so that almost anybody can purchase a knife like that with quality steel that isn't going to nick up, cut yourself, break. You get discouraged, you get upset, and you're like, man, I just wasted all that money. I don't want to do this anymore. You get a knife from nobody. Yeah, I'm sponsored by him, but I'm not lying when I say his quality of knives are top notch for their price. So those iron tears, man, when I threw that iron tear for the first time, because I worked with the Vengeance Slim so much, it was very similar, and I could throw that thing like a bullet. And it helped me out, and it's much less expensive than the Vengeance. In whatever country you're in, you have to pay for those deporting fees and all that. Your money currency being the same, having all that change. So if you can buy a knife in your country, that's probably the best bet for shipping costs and all that. So a lot of people are throwing in different parts of the world. You might want to steer where you're going to buy and see what's available in your country first before you buy half across the world like I did. I could have, if I started later and nobody came out with knives when I started, yeah, I would have probably went that route instead of the Vengeance Slims, because those iron tears will help you learn no spin very well. That's the design you want to start with. I would suggest that to any starter. Don't go to the Gil Hibbins. Don't go to all these fancy looking knives you'll find on eBay or Amazon, or you know, wait to get those fancy looking knives, even if they're custom by a custom knife maker. Get something that's very common. These knives have been around for a while, the Arrow style, the Vengeance style, and I would suggest getting one of those knives like the Iron Tear, starting off with that, especially if you're going to want to throw no spin, and stick with that knife for a while. Get really good with it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I went from I changed. So I started with the 6mm thickness, and then I quickly realized how much more for those thicker fingers. If you got sausage fingers like me, or even bigger, that thicker spine is going to help you not just with throwing and that index push or that slide. You know, you're going to be able to get that bullet spin because you have more surface. You want to have your finger on the side of the knife, so when you push, like I was talking about the spiral of a football, you're spiraling the knife out. So instead of kind of going with the supination with a football, you're pronating with the knife to get that bullet spin. And thicker spine is gonna help. Even now, those fullers, you can really catch it when you're trying to do a bullet spin. So when you're throwing it, all you got to do is adjust your index finger off to the spine of the knife. I got pretty into the bullet spins. They definitely travel through the air. The flight path's better. It feels great. when you watch it in video and you see what you did, the accomplishment feels great inside. You definitely want to throw more, right? The more fun you have in throwing, the more you're going to do it and the better you're going to get. So go a route that is fun for you. For me, throwing no spin, bullet spin, trick shots, that made it funner for me. And now I'm hooked for life. It's become a lifestyle for me. From bushcrafting, now I can throw knives that I was carrying around with me before. Now I'm going to throw knives for the rest of my life. So that was huge. Tear. Sorry. Yeah, that knife tears. It tears. It might provide a tear for somebody, but it's sorry about that. It's tear. Sorry about that. I'll fix my terminology right away on that. Yeah, the Iron Tear is an awesome knife. You can get knives with different thicknesses. Maybe the same knife just comes in a heavier version. I would recommend everybody start with a lighter knife. The heavier knives, you might do well with that starting off. So again, this is one of those moments where you might want to try it to learn it. Rather than take advice from somebody, get a lighter knife. Maybe get one of each. Start off with whatever feels more natural so you know how to progress at the beginning. Do I need an 8 millimeter thick knife, or do I do better with a 6 millimeter thick knife? Those small changes are actually big when it comes to how well you're going to throw. From 6 millimeters to 8 millimeters, huge. I've gotten knives at 7 millimeters. You know, I've played around all the way up to 10 millimeter thick knives. And, you know, I've gone to about 7 millimeters is just perfect for me. Thicker knives, 8 millimeters, 9, 10. Yeah, I can throw it, but at the same time, when you're throwing so much, you are going to feel a little bit more stress on your elbow and shoulder when you have that extra weight. The lighter knives are so smooth and comfortable to throw and slide out of your hand, but a lot of the things that I do require a lot of power and a lot of penetration, so I always go back to thick knives. I don't really stick with 6 or stick with 7 or 8. I kind of go back and forth now, but I did start off with 6 millimeters and I stuck with that for a while, and I didn't get any injuries. I didn't feel any soreness, and that's going to be another topic for another time. How to get therapy, how to recuperate, how to heal, how to stay strong. You want to get a lot of blood flow in the arm. I'll tell you that right away before we get into it another day. A lot of blood flow. So just grabbing some light weights and working on some of your pronation, and do it 50 times. Have a type of weight that you can do 50 times and get that blood pumping. As soon as you start to feel a burn, that's when I would say to stop the set. But you want to get blood into that arm fairly often if you're a thrower, and that's going to help. Ice is very good too. Even if you're feeling good after a throw, even if you're feeling good, throw some ice on it. Have a cold shower. There's these ice sleeves that I've purchased, and I'll show you that in another video. You slip on these ice sleeves after your throw, and it just recuperates. It heals. You feel much better afterwards. It just rejuvenates the nerves, the tendons. And as important as that is, I'll quickly get into that because it is very important at the beginning. And while I was able to throw so much, I work out a lot. I train a lot. So, you know, when it comes to injury, it's important to know how to avoid it. And stretching, eating well, resting well. If you're working and your posture's a certain way, it's going to affect your throw time when you go home after work. How you sit, if you're arched down all day at a computer, that's going to play over time, and you're not going to be able to throw as much. It's going to hurt. Your shoulder might give out if you're sleeping on your shoulder every day. You know, you might have a little bit of pain waking up in the morning. You can avoid all that if you take the time to understand how the body works, and the things you want to enjoy, you'll be able to do them more if you take the time to be healthy, sleep well, eat well, and all those small things you do throughout the day, you do them properly. best posture you can get, best form you can get. Stretch before you start doing what you're doing. And do those things all the time. Just get into a habit so that you're doing these things naturally. They're going to prolong your life. They're going to prolong your throwing, and staying dedicated to a healthy lifestyle. I can't promote that enough. That's super important. So for knife throwing, I'm able to throw with power. I'm able to throw a lot. And the only time I felt pain was when I started arm wrestling, and I got really obsessed, and I started to lift heavy weight, and I did it a lot. And then I was also throwing a lot. So I started to just overdo my hand, my arm, in two of the biggest sports that hurt your arm: throwing like a baseball player, like a pitcher, and arm wrestling. I don't think there's anything else that hurts your arm more than that. So I found out how to kind of balance the two hobbies I have, and I do a lot of therapy work when it comes to arm wrestling now. I'm not trying to get the strength anymore. I'm just trying to be therapeutic in how I do arm wrestling, and that's really helped my throwing. Like, I don't feel any pain. A lot of pronation in how I throw, a lot of flexing, stretching out those tendons. So strengthening those tendons. There's certain things you can do exercise-wise that's just going to strengthen your tendons. That's going to help your throwing. So I have a couple videos that show a couple presses, and I think it's the JR press, and it's a certain way to hold your bench press. And when you do it, it's actually strengthening your elbows. And I did that for a month after I was feeling pain from arm wrestling, and it went away. So it's always a good way to educate yourself on the recovery to throwing, how to strengthen your rotator cuff, how to strengthen your elbow so you don't get tennis elbow or all these other things. That's super important, and I would suggest that for anybody, because you can be quickly discouraged. You can be quickly discouraged through some pain. So, have I missed any comments? Because I see the yee, it took forever. Nope. Okay. So just clarify what you're saying, and maybe if that's directed at me, I can make it a comment towards that. Oh, there you go. What's going on there, Rocky? Good to see you here. Hopefully this one, it might just be a live. Yeah, I might not get this one actually loaded on because the memory on my iPad it went low, so it's not recording anymore. But I don't know exactly if that's true, so we'll see if this posts afterwards to YouTube. If it doesn't, I'm going to work on getting some extra memory so that I don't run into this problem again. But this live stream's a little bit different. I'm just going over a little bit about myself, introducing who I am, where I came from, my nickname, Coolest Weatherman, how I got into throwing, some of the things that I consider important. How did I start throwing? Why did I start throwing no spin? I've answered some of those questions already and really got into depth and discussed about it. Something about throwing knives, since I'm so passionate about it, I can really talk about it forever, and I can start rambling, but maybe that will slow down in some other live streams once I've touched base. Maybe when a question comes, I'll revisit certain things, but hopefully I don't go on tangents like this all the time, right? We're going to be outside, we're going to be throwing more, and I'm going to be doing a lot of trick shots. The plan is to do trick shots like ones I've never done before, ones you've never seen before, and I'm going to go through the process. And you're going to watch a live of me starting out and getting it done. So if it takes 3 hours, it takes 3 hours. And you're going to see the determination that I have to get things done and the limits I push myself, because all those trick shots I do, they're real. I've done them, and I'll do them again if you want to see them. Yeah, and I'm honest. Some of them took a while. Some of them are very hard, but I didn't stop until I got it done. There's only a few tricks that I had to revisit the next day. Maybe 3 tricks that I could not do in one day. I think one of them was the pinning 3 cans in a row from 3 meters. I actually had the top dogs from Wolflund, and as soon as I got those top dogs, I actually did it that day, but there was 2 days previous that I was using a smaller knife, and I wasn't getting it. So as soon as those top dogs came in, boom, I was able to do it. Thanks, Matt. I'm glad this is kind of helping out. You know, I've always told myself, even if I'm just helping one person out, that's all that matters to me. You know, I'm not trying to reach the masses. I'm trying to hit one person. Yeah, I got 26 meters in a no spin throw. I actually got 27 meters. It was an Ace Jet competition. I won't get into it too much, but I think I was cheated out on that. The answer I got back was because I didn't celebrate as much as I did for my 26 meters. That was the answer I got from Ace Jet, but they're a great company to do that, and I hope because of the drama that was spread through that competition, they didn't stop doing it, because they did it for 3 years in a row, and this is the first year that I haven't seen anything, whether they were losing money on that or just, you know, a lot of drama. That was disappointing when I saw that. I didn't really try to start any drama. I kind of kept it to myself and dealt with it through them and just got my answer that I wanted and said, okay, I'll deal with it. But yeah, I got 27 meters, which is a world record, and it's on camera. It's on my YouTube channel if you want to check that out. I got second place in that, so they used my 26 meter throw, but yeah, I can get into a lot of that. It is what it is. Like, I'm very passionate about certain things, so, you know. Yeah, man, I'm glad to have motivated some people. I know there's a lot of people like Loic. He's a great no-spin thrower that motivates a lot of people. You can throw like Loic, you pretty much reach the top bar, because he can throw probably the best. When I got in, I saw him, and I was like, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going. Whether I can throw more power and more consistent, that's just bonus for me. But I definitely was like, that's the top level of a throw. I don't think you can get much better than that at all. And that's one of those motivators for me. When it came to trick shots, Brandon Danger Dillon, Lee Molson, some of these guys can throw trick shots way before any one of us. And they did some crazy cool things. I mean, I was so on a high with these trick shots, and when I saw them do something, I wanted to do it too, because it just looked so cool. And the accomplishment of doing something, that made it so much more fun for me. Seeing a trick that looks impossible, and then you end up doing it. And the thing with me was I always did their trick shots with no spin. So they were doing their trick maybe that was never done before, and it was rotational. And I would do the trick no spin, and they would always throw a comment in that said, that's much more difficult. And it just made me feel great. I felt like, yeah, I'm doing this for the first time with a no spin throw. So all my trick shots, pretty much all of them, are no spin, which is a new level of Tom Tom has been a great inspiration for so many people, because he has one of the best tutorials on Facebook or on YouTube, so people can watch his tutorial, and his throwing is phenomenal. It might be a little bit different than what I'm looking for. Since I'm military, I've always been soldier first, so the way I wanted to throw, I ended up wanting to be as lethal as possible, as tactical as possible. So some people have a very static throw, and as good as those people are, I just wanted to tweak my throw a little bit different so that I could run and throw. I can move side to side and throw. I can throw with certain restrictions, and I can still generate that power, that speed, and that accuracy that is required when you're trying to throw lethally, tactically. So that was a big motivation for me in throwing. It always had to be tactical. It always had to be tactical. Yeah, cans. I got into that at the beginning there, Rocky. When I threw cans at the beginning, like for my trick shots, that helped me train. Some people are a little bit more natural. I think I was at the beginning. It's difficult to do, but I found that connection, which I think was a timing thing. Throwing the can, and it's all at one time. Like, so you throw from 3 meters, you have to throw your knife fairly quickly, because the way it travels in the air, it's going to reach the target where you're throwing fast. The more you move back, the more time you have to watch the can and then kind of zero in and aim and throw. But at the beginning, I was wanting to throw from 3 meters, and throwing a can just helped me. helped me kind of keep going because I was able to do something that made it funner, but I was still throwing the same way I would throw without the can. So it was just extra training. You change up how you're throwing to throw the can because it doesn't feel natural to throw with your other hand and then get into your throw. Then yeah, maybe you want to stick to just throwing. All you're doing is adding in an extra movement. But it's a lot because your brain is thinking about how and where to throw your can, and at the same time your brain is thinking about how to throw your knife. So sometimes that can mess people up when your brain is on 3 different things, 4 different things, 5 different things at once. There's some trick shots I do that require a lot of movements. I had to throw a tire, then throw the can through the tire, and then I had to fast draw my knife out and pin the can. There was so much going on there. You almost want to be so good at throwing your knife, your mind isn't no longer thinking about throwing your knife. That you do it so naturally, all you have to think about with your brain is focus in on that trick part, throwing the can, throwing the tire, throwing the can through the tire, if you get crazy like me. So you want to be able to throw that knife without having to think about it. And once you're at that level, you're going to be able to do trick shots where your mind doesn't even got to think. Your brain connection is probably not even needed anymore because you're just throwing it like naturally without thinking. It's now your second instinct, right? So that might help you through getting those cans because I got to be honest, that's super fun. It's more fun when you can do that than just throwing a knife back and forth. BIM, BMO throwing, I was always intrigued in it, mainly for the flight path it generates, and it's so much easier on the body. So I always told myself, once I reach a certain age, and I'm not able to do a certain something like I used to do, I'm probably going to get into the BMO. It just looks so good, and I think the accuracy, you can get your muscle, your mechanics so consistent, so when you go into competition, I think that would do very well. You want to have very easy and simple body mechanics when you're throwing in competition because then it's easier to be accurate and consistent. If I got into competitions right now, I would be probably throwing different than anybody they've seen, but that's how I would be consistent, that's how I would be accurate. I would have to stand beyond 3 meters because my follow through will land at 3 meters. But I've been doing it so much, I know where to stand and where my follow through ends. But BMO style throwing is amazing. You might not see many of them doing tricks with that, but like you said, Matt, nothing's going to stop you from doing it. And there's no limits to what someone can tell you you can do. So if you tell yourself, I'm going to do trick shots with the BMO style, you're going to do trick shots with the BMO style. And I expect a video from you one day doing it because don't stop until you can do it. I know this for a fact that certain things are achievable. You know, this isn't something new. Throwing isn't new. So however you're going to learn to throw, you're going to be able to do that and add to it like your trick shots. So yeah, it's it's more like a dance. I did Aikido, martial arts, and that's very like a dance. You're using the momentum of the fighter, and you're using their momentum to kind of pin them and put them in a hold without trying to hurt them. That kind of reminds me of how BMO style is. It's like a dance. At the beginning of Aikido, you start off with a movement, a stance. And that's kind of how I see BMO's throw. It's super awesome. It's super impressive. I'm not one to sit here and say anymore. Maybe at the beginning I was like, you know what, power, you're only going to achieve a certain amount of power with this throw. I think anybody can achieve power, speed, accuracy with a throw, with all the throws out there. You just got to be determined enough to put enough hours in to be able to get there. And no one's going to stop you. The only person who's going to stop you is yourself. I'm just reading some of the comments. Yeah. Matt, congratulations on that. Let me know how that felt, because when you pin that first can, wow, right? Now you're realizing I can do this, and you're only going to get better. And there's something, I've always compared pinning a ring and pinning a can. The sound of pinning a can is so much better to me, at least. I get a lot more of a high when I pin a can. That sound, it's just great. You might get a little ding, ring-a-ling with a ring, and some people enjoy that, but I love the smash into the can. I love the crush. I love being able to get the knife through the mouthpiece. So you never know how you're going to pin your can, right? With a ring, you're getting through the center. It can do a little wobble around it, and that's kind of cool, and you might get a little bit of a high off that, but throwing a can and crushing it is awesome. And whenever I get the knife through the mouthpiece, I'm always pumped up. And if I can get the knife through the mouthpiece and out the back of the can, that's like the ultimate, right? I don't see many people doing that. That happens very rare, but if you can do that, that's awesome. That's awesome. So congratulations on that, Matt. Anybody who can do that, you've put yourself on another level where, you know, knife throwing isn't popular. So now you can show a neighbor what you can do. Like, you can show your family members what you can do. When they come over, you show them the video and you're like, yeah, come outside, I'll show you. It just becomes who you are. You know, you get to be able to share this with others. It's a topic I bring up. If I'm into a new church, I'm talking to all the people at church about my knife throwing. Like, if I'm at work, like I am now, and I'm about to go on ship and meet a bunch of new people, I'm going to be talking about knife throwing, and I'm going to be like, yeah, I got a YouTube channel. You can check out what knife throwing is all about, because most people are like, wait a minute, you throw knives? Like, I've never heard of that. Like, why don't you shoot? What? I want to see that. I don't even visualize that in my brain, what that would look like. And then you go one step further, and you're like, yeah, I actually throw the knife without spinning it. It just flies out of my hand like an arrow. They're kind of like, huh? Like, and it becomes a very good conversation breaker. I mean, if you're single and you're trying to pick up a girl, go on dates to find a wife, that's a good way to start it. Like, hey, you don't want to get too much into it, but you definitely can break the ice by saying, I throw knives without spinning it. And this is what I do. And I carry knives all around me. And that girl or guy is going to feel very secure around you, because they're going to be like, well, I'm safe. You know, nothing's going to happen to me on this date. So knife throwing becomes a lifestyle. It becomes, if you're passionate about it, you're going to show other people that passion, and then they get energized by you. And then they're going to be maybe motivated more, influenced more to try it out themselves. And that's really what we want. That's really why I'm doing live streaming. That's really why I'm trying to engage the community. I'm trying to reach out to people more, because we want people to throw. If you're playing poker with just one friend, it's not as fun until you get more people at the table and you can have a game with a lot of people. So when you can start to engage with people about what you're doing, it just gets better. So every person that starts all over the world, they're talking to their bubble of people that are in their life, and then that bubble grows. Whether you get one person or two people, you know, one person is enough, and it just grows from there. And it's, like I said, it's if it makes it funner for you, then you're going to do it more, and you're going to be better at it. So yeah. So I got a couple other things I want to do before I end this live stream. What time are we at here?
It's 9:23.
No, like how long has it been going?
An hour ago you started.
Okay, so I'm reaching an hour. I'm not limited on time. When I do these lives, it's because it's after work. I don't got work tomorrow, so I'm just going to flow with it and see how it goes. Absolutely, it's therapeutic there, Ninja. Rocky, man, that's one of the big things for me, is that it was just therapy. You know, like I said, I started before COVID. So when COVID hit, I was like, dang, I'm lucky I got into this, because I got nothing else to do. And the depression that would come on somebody sitting around not doing much because they're just locked down. Now you can go out and throw. You had a hard day at work, you go home and you throw, and you hear that thunk. You can almost feel that thunk in your veins. Yeah, that's going to just change your whole mind. And then you get into like what I call a trance. You're going and you're going to get your knives. You're walking back and throwing. You're going to collect your knives. You're walking back. You're throwing. And you just do that over and over and over. And whatever was on your mind is now gone. You're now just like in your zone. And you're in a trance to just throw. And it's better. I wouldn't say be angry when you throw. You know, that anger can get you hurt. That anger can make bad habits. If you're angry a lot when you're throwing, try to allow your throwing to calm you down. You know, focus on it calming you down, not making you more angry or taking it out on the target, like picturing something and just throwing at it. Try to focus on your breathing, focus on your throwing, and all those problems are going to go away. That brings up one thing too. Breathing is so important in throwing. Martial arts. A lot of people will when they punch, when they kick. You add in that throwing or that breathing when you throw. It's a little nuance. It's a little tweak you might want to make later on, but it's something that's going to help you get more power. And it's a good release. It helps when you can get a pattern of breathing for when you're angry too. That helps letting it out more, right? You want to let it all out, whether it's a punching bag or it's your log round in your backyard. Get that, right? When you're throwing, you got to pick up a knife, exhale, inhale when you get back up. All these little things help in the end. Yeah, same as an archer, yep. Rage throws are the worst. You hit it, Matt. Yeah, rage throws are the worst. You might get lucky and you get a stick and you're like, I can't even get this knife out of the target because of how hard I threw it there. You might only be able to get that type of power in that rage, but, you know, correction on what I just said. You can get that power. You just got to find that breathing technique and really get all the mechanics mastered. Get them all together at once. And you'll get some power. I've gotten some serious power, and I was smiling doing it. So, and I don't think I could get much more power. Like I said at the beginning, don't have any unrealistic expectations. Some power isn't achievable with throwing a knife. You can get a lot of power. I think you're talking to the guy who's been the only one to throw a knife completely through a golf ball, completely through a baseball, completely through a hockey puck, completely through a whole pack of deck, like a whole cards, a 52 pack of playing cards. I actually pinned it so it went further through them. I've pinned frying pans. I've pinned cans to frying pans. I've pinned 25-pound plates. I've thrown a knife through some hard material, and I know that power is intense. So when people get into the self-defense, talk about this and what a knife can do, I think it's challenging because you can see what a bullet does to somebody because you could watch it. You can see it in war. You can see these life experiences when someone takes a bullet and talks about it. But not many people can see a knife being thrown at somebody to learn what it can do. So we're left guessing a bit. But we do these tests like throwing through Kevlar vests, throwing through these balls like I've done, baseballs, hockey pucks, frying pans, to understand that if I could do that, I can definitely do something with this knife beyond stabbing, beyond what maybe other people are thinking. So that's a tough topic. A lot of people in the knife throwing community don't want to advertise it for that, but we got to be real. We're talking about a knife here. A knife is a weapon. It's not a ball. It's not used for sports. It can be now in knife throwing as a sport, but it's a knife. And there's things you can do with a knife that throughout history, it wasn't a sport. So we got to be real about it. You throw a knife at somebody with a lot of power, you're going to hit your target. A lot of the discussion too would be don't, because you're going to go to jail. You know, you don't want to end up in jail. Well, we're talking about if you have a gun, you're going to use that in a self-defense. You have to be disciplined, self-controlled, and know when the time to use it is because of a life-threatening situation, an animal, someone's attacking your family, and you don't care about going to jail. You care about saving, you care about eliminating the problem, the threat, so that you can save lives. It's a last resort for me. So if I'm at war, I can throw a knife. I have my weapons, and I'm going to use them. I'm going to use my rifle. I'm going to use my grenades. I'm going to do what I got to do with what I'm trained with. But I also have one option to throw a knife. Is it my focus in war? No. But it's giving me one opportunity that I might need because I'm given a situation where I have no other thing. Like I have this to do. I'm in this situation, and now I'm trained to think, well, I can throw my knife now. I have a split second to do it. I don't have another opportunity. I can't expose myself right now. I have to stay hidden in the shadows. I've lost my weapon. I have nothing but my knife right now. I have to do something, and the knife throwing has just offered a little bit more of a realistic aspect to combat. You know, martial arts, you train in it, doesn't mean you're out at a bar going to jail because you broke someone's neck or made someone pass out because you're punching them. Self-control, you know, discipline, and understanding what you're training for might never be used, but you're at least giving yourself one other option. And that's all I would say about that. Can you be effective? 100%. Anyone who tells you it can't doesn't know. They just are talking out of ignorance. Or they're thinking they can't do it, so you can't do it. No, nobody can level your standard. What you can do isn't because someone else can do it. You can do it because you've put the time in to do it. So you're your best sensei. You know when to go, when to not go, when to step up, when to step down. So that's a huge thing, right? Exactly. You know, David and Goliath. He brought a rock to a sword fight, and he won. So sometimes if you're doing an act of good, some other forces might be playing into that, and you'll do something you never thought you could do because you're motivated to do the right thing. And that goes a far way for me. You might know a little bit about me and my beliefs, but that's not for these types of discussions. But if you ever have a question about that, you send me an email, and I'm happy to talk to you about my beliefs as well. No problem at all.
Rocky wants to know, what do you think about the Chinese guy Adam was with?
So when I got into knife throwing, I was quick to advance because I put a lot of time in. A lot of people didn't see the hours I was putting into throwing. So I got into no reloading too. And I threw no reloading for a weekend. And I joined a competition, and I won. I got first place, and I was just throwing no reload for a quick bit. It was a blink. It was a minute in the amount of time I was training no spin. But I crushed it. I got like 200 plus consecutive throws with 6 knives, and I did 6 knives under a second, and I crushed the competition that's been doing this for a long time. So I was number 1. And then this guy that you're talking about, that Adam was throwing with, I felt like he might have been motivated now to say, now there's some real competition. And he went out and he crushed mine, and he threw 7 knives under a second. But I'm still 3rd place. Him and his sister, that Chinese guy and his sister, are number 1 and number 2 in that no reloading competition. But that no reloading competition has been shoved under a rug, and it just kind of went away. I don't know what drama happened around that. If people felt the way I was doing it because I did it so quick, it wasn't fair, or you know, the guy running it told me to take my time in between consecutive throws. That we want to see you throw under a second, and once you get that under a second, you then throw as many as you can in a row. But you don't have to worry about under a second. So I took my time throwing each one to get as many as I could in a row. And that might have rubbed a little wrong with some people because I wasn't going fast every single time. So, but that's the way I was told to do it, and that's the way I did it. And I was number 1 for a week. And then that guy, I think, is probably one of the best no-spin throwers in the world. He's not hiding anything. I think I put him at the top for the best in the world, for consistency, for the way he throws, how natural he does it. I know he was throwing knives and doing martial arts because it's in their culture from such a young age. And that's what his job was. That's all he did. To be able to get to that level, you have to start at a young age and do it your whole life. And that's all you do. Your job is to wake up and do that. You know, it's hard for me to get to that level. I want to, and I'll keep going, but I might have to reach that further down the line than get it right away. You know, when you're throwing at 9 years old, 7 years old, and your parents are putting you through this type of training, that's intense, right? That's like your culture, your lifestyle. This is what you do. You've trained to be a ninja. You're doing martial arts. You're doing, you know, kickboxing. You're doing taekwondo, whatever martial art they had him do. And then you're throwing weapons at the same time, and that's all you're doing for your whole life. So that's why he's that good, but he is that good for a reason. That doesn't just come natural. That's something he's done his whole life. And he is probably the best no-spin thrower I've ever seen, without a doubt. A lot of good no-spin throwers out there for me to say that to, like Loic, Joel, Joe. These people throw no-spin very, very well. There's even more, like Judah, but Judah's style of throwing is very focused towards competition. And he can throw with consistency, with accuracy, and he can throw in that power, but his training is very, very, very specific to accuracy. And the way he holds a knife is very unique. But he's also a knife thrower that's right at the top for me as being one of the best in the world. You know, I like to throw to be the best I can be, and I put myself at high level because I'm very hard on myself, so I always push myself to be better. And when I see someone so good, I'm like, I got to get more better because I can't be down here. I got to get myself at the top. So I've really been dedicated to throwing for many years, and I consider myself not the best. I'm not up there at the best, but I can definitely throw with the best. When it comes to competition, I've done online competitions, and I've done well. I've won. I'm the top Ace Jet master there is in the world right now. They're different competitions, but I've put myself out there the best I can to do it. The no reloading competition, you know, I'll put myself out there, and I'll do it. I even tried the AIM games. I had to throw rotationally, and I was top 10 for the first couple weeks. Everyone putting out their videos. I crushed it. Didn't continue because I wasn't into throwing rotationally, and I wasn't wanting to lose what I had, and I was going to get too obsessed with that, so I just stopped myself, didn't focus on the prize, focused on the skills. So that's what helped me. Yeah, Joe, he's very, very good, like combat style knife thrower. He can do a lot of movements when he's throwing. But yeah, there's a lot that I wanted to do because I did a lot of watching other throwers, and that led me to wanting to accomplish these things. But we're going to wrap it up here. I'm getting carried away. I don't know how many more people are here following Judah as well. He quit his day job. Yeah, he did. He's on Team Nobody with me. So he's right up there leading the team. And yeah, he's going all in. I've heard it from a number of throwers who are very close to Judah, and he's all in right now. He was talking about going to work today and having a pop tire and stuff, but I'm pretty sure he's going in the direction of all in, and because he's doing acts and he's making big money doing those acts with his wife. So he has another option to support himself, as well as he's opening up a lot of throws and a lot of land he has and opportunity. So he sees a vision. Maybe not other people are seeing it as much right now, but he has a vision that he's going all in on. And I hope it does well. I hope he gets what he's looking for, because the work we have to put in as knife throwers to get seen and to get noticed, traction, people out at our throws, it's a lot of work for these people to do. Just watch, Brandon Danger Dillon. The amount of work he has to do to get the top throw at Dangerfest. It's a lot of work. You can see it when he explains it in his body. You can see his body reaction. Like, it's a lot of work. And these people are doing it for you. I can't say enough good things about these people and the community. Really, I've learned and matured, and I've realized that this community is doing a lot of work. They might have a little different thing that I would want, but they're doing it mainly for you, and they're doing it the way it needs to be done, so that big money people don't come in and take over and ruin it for everybody. Because it's not fair that they would do that without considering the thousands of people that have been doing this for years. So that's a big thing that I definitely wanted to mention. And you know, it should be mentioned, and not disregarded, because it's a lot of work these people are putting in, a lot of time, a lot of effort, giving up their jobs to not make much, just so that they can maybe get this get this a little bit further for others. So yeah, it's a very big thing. So one last thing I'm going to do before I end this live stream is I'm going to have a box opening. I got another gift actually for moving from a company, Throw Club. It's a popular company now on Amazon. It's going around. They're a Chinese company, and there's a bunch of them, and they're all kind of, they're all kind of together. There are different names to them, but they're all working together. Just, I think it's a marketing type of thing they're doing to try to get their product out to more people. And anyways, they've been super generous to me, super kind to me. And I know I'm sponsored by nobody, but if I'm going to talk about something else, it's going to be because people are being nice. They're being generous to me. And I'm gonna talk about this here because of that kindness showed towards me. So they sent me 2 hatchets. I was actually looking because I wanted to throw hatchets. It's part of competition, so I wanted to throw hatchets. If I'm going to throw rotationally, I actually want to throw it with a hatchet rotationally, not with a knife. So they gave me 2 of these, and the price is $60 Canadian for 2. And I'm not an expert when it comes to these, but I do know what they look like, and this looks fairly similar to a lot of hatchets out there. They have good steel. It's cheap. This has been reviewed by other YouTube channels that you can just look up the brand Throw Club hatchet, and you'll probably see a list of them, and you can just go through them and see. People sharpening them, people showing you how these things kind of come off and how easy they are to fix the handles. But they're pretty heavy. Hatchets are going to be a little bit more heavy. I think that's this type of steel. It feels like a brick. I've held other hatchets before, but when you throw these, they are going to be heavier. They're going to rotate, a lot easier, top heavy. But these look pretty nice. Check those out. You can check them out on Amazon if you want. They have other stuff going on. I would always recommend the Iron Tier as your starting knife, but you're going to be tempted to see the price in other knives. If your budget allows an extra $40, go with the Iron Tier. You're not going to go wrong. They're much better to learn off of. They're not like super sharp, but they come sharp. Yeah, no, they feel good. They feel good. I'm going to have another video where I throw these. We'll start off alive maybe throwing these, and I don't throw much, so you'll just see me miss and get used to it. I can stick these. I can throw them pretty far. Every distance you go back, you have to kind of flip it around and then flip it back. Like it's kind of like understanding the rotation of the axe or the hatchet, tomahawk, whatever you're throwing, and just making those adjustments to where you're holding it. If you're putting your thumb on the handle or not, holding it lower, so it's like your pinky finger's not even gripping it. That's how you're going to work on your rotation. You can slow the rotation down like this. You can flick your wrist. You work that out, those body mechanics, to how you naturally throw. You make small changes until you get consistent sticks. And that's how you self-teach yourself, whether it's this or not. But you'll see me teach myself how to throw this. I won't practice. They'll look like new before I start, and I'll show you that I didn't practice with them, and we'll learn together how to throw these. Again, I'm a no-spin. I'm at that point where I consider myself a no-spin a good no spin thrower. Can't say expert yet. I don't think anyone can actually be an expert. You know, that's very difficult. And if you're giving yourself the title, yeah, I don't know how much that can hold. But I'm definitely a good no spin thrower. If you have any questions, you want to email me, I'll leave my email in the description below. You can look me up on Facebook. Most of you probably already know me. So I'm very easygoing. You ask me any questions you want. I'm going to go all out to answer you. If there's other people around to give you an example of how I answer questions, I go on tangents and I give you as much information as I can. So you're going to ask somebody, don't hesitate to ask me. I'm here to help you. Again, this live stream went a little bit different. It's not going to be like this. I just enjoyed talking to people about it. So I probably went on and on and on. But I don't get many opportunities to do this. So this is a good change for me. I'm going to be doing lives probably Friday, Saturday, both days. Maybe one discussion, one throwing, maybe one trick shot, one throwing. And maybe I'll do a random live stream here and there every Wednesday. Something comes up. I'm probably going to do more live streams than I am going to make videos. I have a good setup, so I'm going to have my target outside. So you're going to be able to see me throw my knife, and then you're going to see the knife hit the target. And I think that's going to be a good change to live streaming for knife throwing. It's going to offer people that nostalgia. They're going to see the knife hit the target. It's hard to see the knife hit the target with some of the live stream knife throwers out there. It's hard to see it when the camera is split. So I got a new setup. I got a couple new cameras. I'm going to give it a go, and we're going to try a few things. So just bear with me. It will get better, and I'll take any suggestions anyone has. If anyone's good with live streaming, setting up cameras, maybe shoot me a message, and I'll let you know my setup and see how I can improve it. For those who did stop by today, there might not be tons of you, but I appreciate the ones that did stop by and hung with me to the end, hanging out, making comments like Matt, Rocky, Papa Audie. I appreciate everybody here. If you haven't already, I will tell you, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification button. There's going to be a lot of new things coming on this channel. Like I said, when I do a live throw, I'm going to be offering $100 towards anything Nobody Knife Works offers. So we'll play a little game, and you'll throw in your guesses in the comments, and whoever's going to be closest is going to win. And all you're going to have to do is take a screen caption of your name on YouTube, and then you're going to be able to prove that's you to me in the email, and then we'll get you ready to go with whatever you pick on the Nobody's Knife Works page. So there's every live I do when I'm throwing, there's going to be a giveaway given. So look forward to that. You know, other people getting into it, if they win, that's a big door open for them to get in. Now I can afford the good knives. I got $100 towards a good set of knives. Yep, I'm doing this. You know, maybe they're a little hesitant before. I don't have many subscribers, so those people that are going to be on in the beginning are going to have a much higher chance to win that $100. So make sure you get on, hit that notifications bell so that you know when my live streams will happen. Again, they're going to be periodically, but I'm aiming for Friday. I'm aiming for Saturday around 8 o'clock. Unless people are having a hard time getting on, then I'll make it 7, 6. I'll change it up. But it's going to get dark for me late, and I am on the East Coast, so it's going to be, I'm going to be the first one to get the daylight over here in Northern America. So keep that in mind. Saturdays offer a bigger day for me, so if I do it in the afternoon and that's easier for you. Those who are sticking with me in the beginning right now, you guys are going to have a lot of say in how I make this, because you guys stuck with me in the beginning. You started out with me, so you guys mean the most to me. And if a better time works for you, you just let me know, and I'll make that adjustment for you. If you got questions, I'm going to be able to zero in on you. So at the beginning, it's just going to be a few of us hanging out, but hopefully this grows and we get more people out, more people winning, and more people throwing. And that's the goal for me. So again, thank you for stopping by. That's all I have for today. I hope you learned something. And again, I thank you. I appreciate you for all you who stuck with this, showed up to my first live. I love y'all. Coolest Weatherman, out.